Be here with you today and to discuss the issues that are timely for our city, for our community, and also for our country. Speaking of that, you're watching Chop It Up, hosted by myself, Attorney Linda Bernard, who's also a police commissioner for District 2 here in the city of Detroit. We're streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and other top social media platforms. Like us, follow us, share, comment, and subscribe to this program online. Again, thank you for watching WJZZ Cool TV, the coolest station in the nation and the world. Joining me today on Chop It Up is a very distinguished gentleman by the name of John Comer. If you Google him, you'll be overwhelmed with the number of pages that exist on him. He is an advocate's advocate. And it's really interesting that he has been able to have the impact that he's had, not just in this community in Detroit, but also on the nation. John is a returning citizen. By that I mean he went away for a while. Some people refer to it as a vacation, but clearly it's not. He was incarcerated. I'm going to let him tell you about that story and about the injustice of our justice system. So I'd like to welcome you today, John Comer. It's good to see you.
No, thank you, Linda. Good to see you too. Police Commissioner Bernard, thank you so much. And it's a pleasure seeing you this morning.
Well, that's great. Tell us about yourself. I mentioned that you were a returning citizen. Tell our audience about yourself.
Well, again, returning citizens, for those that are not familiar
Take
with
your
that.
mask off if you don't mind. You look like you have a beard.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
I've been vaccinated. And
Well,
I know
I'm
you
fully
have
vaccinated as well, and
Okay.
I encourage everyone to do that. So if your listeners are listening, it's everyone's
watching.
choice. And watching, it's everyone's choice, and I hope that you'll make the right choice for you and your family regarding the vaccination. I am a returning citizen. Served 13 years here in Michigan, Department of Corrections, for shoplifting.
What did you shoplift?
Well,
Retail.
the last time I shoplifted was a pair of gym shoes, British Knights gym shoes,
Oh wow!
and a set of king size bed sheets.
I see. And
Yes.
what county were you in? Were you in Wayne County?
No,
or
that was in Oakland County. Oakland
okay,
County.
okay.
But I'm not going to say that's the only thing that I have on my record. But that's
Okay.
what I went to prison for. I
That was
have
the first time you went to prison?
That was the first. No, well, yes, the first time I went to prison.
Okay.
I am a B prefix though, but I caught like a another case while I was still under the first case, if you will. I was in the halfway house
Okay.
in 1992 and violated and was sent back to prison, and then that's where I finished out my time. So a total of 13 years of time
I see.
for a pair of gym shoes and a set of bed sheets.
I see. But you were a fierce advocate while you were there for yourself.
Well, it got me into trouble, and that's why I did 13 years.
Tell us about what you did and what you were doing.
Well, in prison, there's a lot of illiteracy, and a lot of people, no matter what race it is, white, black, whatever, can't read. And so, and they don't know how to assert themselves, and you see them being abused, you see them being misused, and so, I would help. I would help. I would find I would write a grievance for them. I would write a letter on their behalf. They would ask me if I would consider running for block representative. That's a prison job.
Did you do that?
Yeah, and I won.
Okay, so you were the block representative.
Yes.
So then what happened?
Well, the block representative, so people understand, is called a prisoner representative.
Oh, okay.
And each
cell block?
for each housing unit has two, one Caucasian, one African American.
Really?
Yes, they make sure that you have to elect one white, one black, and you have to elect two
I
for
didn't
each
know that.
unit. Yes.
What is a housing block?
A housing unit?
Oh, what is a housing unit?
And that's the unit where the
I
prisoners
mean, how many
reside.
people is that?
Typically, anywhere between 75 to 110, 115 maybe in a unit.
So do you representatives meet as well as a
Yes.
group? So you're giving that time to go represent and read.
We have break-off committee meetings as
Okay.
well as meeting with the warden once a month,
Okay.
or the deputy warden once a month to discuss prisoner issues. There may be prisoners lost property, so we have to hear their request for the inmate benefit fund to reimburse them, reimbursement hearings. There may be issues regarding the temperature of the water in the unit. So those are issues that are brought. We tell the warden we need the maintenance people from outside to come and look and see what's going on with our water. Whatever it is, can we have late night power during the Labor Day weekend? Whatever it is that the prisoners are having, their inputs, their issues and concerns are given to me and the other block representative, and we would, advocate for these
Did it make a
changes.
difference?
In some cases, it did. There were some wardens. One particular warden, John Hawley, I believe he's deceased now. He was a warden, and he seemed to be very, very
Well, John,
nice.
recently you're a news junkie. You love news.
Yes.
Recently, 100 and some prisoners were killed in a prison in the United States. It was some sort of a riot, and like 193, I believe, something like that. I don't know if you saw that. And now they had restored. I'm going to Google it later. I don't know exactly what prison it was and state, but I did see it. And they just sort of, this was within the last 14 days.
Oh, wow.
So.
No, I didn't catch that story. I'm sorry I didn't catch that story.
I know that the guards have a lot of power and everything, and but can you ever advocate for people not to be in solitary confinement or anything like that? Or that's all beyond you?
That's where I suffered the most. Is in solitary confinement. I was actually placed in solitary confinement for having a thesaurus dictionary. Listen, I checked out a dictionary thesaurus from the general library in prison. It was overdue. I was working as the clerk, which is really one of the prestige jobs, in the kitchen. And make $150 a month. That was a prestige job. So here I am as the clerk. People want that job. The officers in my cell searching. They find this thesaurus. Oh, it's past due. They write me a theft ticket.
Theft?
Theft.
For an overdue dictionary?
Yes.
Come on.
A thesaurus. They wrote me a theft ticket. And the hearing officer, Wooten, I'll never forget. This happened years ago too. But it's fresh in my mind like it just happened because it was the most. Oh my God, I cry every day sometimes when I think about it. But he found me guilty of theft and said, you're already in prison for shoplifting, so that's theft. And now you're here still in the dictionary from the library. That's theft. So I'm going to give you 30 days in solitary confinement.
Okay, so then what happened?
The solitary confinement grew to 18 months of confinement.
Are you serious?
Yes, at least 18 months.
Why did it become 18 months of confinement?
Well, because they told me that I was black but didn't sound black and they didn't know how to treat me. And so they started harassing me. They started kicking on my door, calling me things like Little Farrakhan and things like that. And these are white officers, all Caucasian men, calling me N-word and getting away with it, spitting in my food, starving me 3 times at 14 days at a time. And it became so bad that I wrote letters out to the public. I got the Bar Journal.
Okay.
I was able to request the Bar Journal from the library.
While you're in solitary confinement.
Because you're able to get legal materials to read. And actually, I would get the Federal Reporters or the Court of Appeals books and just read them for entertainment because, especially the Federal Reporters, they depict chronologically in some cases what happened. I don't know if you
Yes,
know
of course
that.
I've read. I'm licensed in the U.S. Supreme Court, the U.S. International Court of Trade,
and they don't
the
have
U.S. Court of Appeals,
and
for the
they
Federal
put it all
Circuit.
in there.
They do.
They put
the
it
Federal
all in.
Reporter puts everything.
They put it all in there,
in there. That's
and they
true.
really do. And I really love reading it. So I was able to ascertain addresses of the delegates. I wrote to Hanson Clark,
all the state reps,
all
and
the
senators,
state representatives, all the state senators and things.
But your letters went beyond just state representatives. You wrote to
the governor and to the congressional people.
Pastor. Give us a history of the people that you wrote to. That people would know, whose names they would recognize.
Well, first of all, Mel Farr.
Okay.
Mel Farr Sr. of the Mel Farr Automotive Group is my godfather, or was my godfather. So he and we wrote each other a lot while I was incarcerated. But one of the most amazing things happened in my life is when I met people from Hartford Memorial Baptist Church in Detroit. They would come into the prison and minister to us.
Okay. I did not know that.
Yeah, they would come and minister to us. And
I've known Reverend Charles Adams for years. I met him in Boston when he was at Harvard.
yes.
And I was there at Massachusetts at the Massachusetts Port Authority as their general counsel, and that's where I met Charles Adams.
Well, you would think that Dr. Charles Gilchrist Adams would be doing a Hertz commercial, if you will, back in the day.
Oh my God!
You know, because he would come to the prison in between services and get us out the way and get back in time to preach at the last service.
Oh my gosh!
And so that's how he was. It was like he was quick with it, and so my bunkie invited me to come hear him preach. And at that time, I was running. I was athletic, and I used to run every yard. I didn't want to go to church, and I get out to run. I told him, I'm going to go run this morning. Thanks for the invite, but no thank you. But when I got out to run the yard, the prison guards, they closed the yard. The yard was closed. They were doing some type of security fence check, whatever, so they closed the yard. And it was raining a little bit that day, too. So I was kind of happy that they closed the yard because I run in the rain, too, you know. So I get back to the housing unit, and they tell me, well, you know, I think I'm going to watch TV in the TV room. They said the TV room is closed because we're about to strip and wax the floors. Strip it. That's, they had to do in the prison with the machines.
So you wind up
I wind up going to church.
Okay, going to church.
And Dr. Adams came and told me that I can do anything if I put God in the mix.
Okay.
And he said it in a way loudly, and I was a little embarrassed by it because I came in and sat in the back of the church. And when he did that to me, I never sit in the back of the church now because that experience. That experience, when I got back to the housing unit and was trying to sleep, my bunkie was trying to reminisce about church and about Dr. Adams and about what he said to me. And I couldn't sleep, so I got up and wrote Dr. Adams a letter and thanked him. Yes.
And he responded.
He responded.
And continued to respond for a
and
number of years.
Very supportive. The church helped me get a typewriter, a second typewriter. Mel Farr helped me get the first typewriter. And then the officers destroyed it. The church helped me get the second typewriter. The officers destroyed it. And then Mel Farr brought me another typewriter. The officers destroyed it. And then Mel Farr brought me another typewriter.
My
so
God.
I went to like 4 typewriters.
How do they get? I don't understand. They can destroy your personal.
Well, with that, yeah, and they get away with it because what they do is they go into your cell and they say they're going to search for things, and oops, they knock your thing down on the floor and pick it back up.
And it's broken.
It's broken, yeah. And everything is concrete and steel.
Right.
And everything they give us is plastic, and and it breaks.
I see, but you even wrote, as I understand it, Earl Graves from Black Enterprise.
Oh my God! Yes.
And you had a number of
contacts.
So you were writing religiously while you were in solitary confinement.
That was my relief, and not only that, I wrote to and used to call anytime they would let me out to use the phone because they put me on administrative segregation. So that's living in segregation, basically. See, there's punitive in solitary confinement where you're there for like detention or whatever, LOP, whatever.
You're just in a room though, all by yourself. Is that
all
what
day?
It is?
Yes, you're in a room by yourself
all day and all night.
all day, all night. You come out of your cell maybe once every other day for an hour, and they put you in a dog cage from there, but.
It's a sad situation.
But I just thank God for it. When I think about it, when I think about all the trials and tribulations that I've been through, it has to be because of where I am today. It has to be because of my ability to be able to speak up about these type of issues. And one of the things they used to do with me, they put me on every restriction in prison. They put me on paper restriction, grievance restriction. I had to get permission to complain.
To file a grievance.
To file a grievance. Because I had been advocating so much on behalf of myself and others that they restricted me from the grievance process. Because I was writing. They would give me some officers that liked me. There were some that did like me and understood me and were able to relate. They would bring me the typewriter. And I was just
nice.
They would bring from the unit, and I would just go to town. So what happened is I read an article about in Black Enterprise magazine, and I got the address. There's a lady. If I can ever find this woman. At the Peter White Library. It's in Marquette, Michigan. I just want to give a shout out to that library. I can't think of her name right now, but I still have the letters in my footlocker, which I have not gone through since I've been home from prison. It's in my closet. God told me to put that Foot Locker in my closet because He had some work for me to do out here in the community. So I haven't opened up that Foot Locker yet.
It'd be a painful experience, I'm sure.
Well, it is. Everything that happened to me, everything that I experienced is in that Foot Locker. And when I came home 17 years ago, God told me, and I followed what God tells me to do. I've learned how to do that in my life. And so,
right before you finish that point, I want to remind our viewing audience and our listening audience that you're watching Chop It Up with attorney Linda Bernard, also known as Police Commissioner Linda Bernard. My guest today is Mr. John Comer, a very distinguished returning citizen, as you know. You can watch us live on Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, all of the social media platforms. You are on Wjzz Cool TV, the coolest station in the nation and the world. John Comer, go ahead.
Oh man, it is the coolest station in the nation.
Thank you.
The world.
Thank you.
And I'm very excited about being here. And just back to this all started. I wish John Conyers, the Honorable Congressman John Conyers, and the Honorable Miss Rosa Parks, those two were the ones to intercede in the mess that I was experiencing at the Riverside Correctional Facility, to the point that then John Engler and then the director of MDOC, his name was Kenneth McGinnis, they ordered, and I swear, I hope these videos are still out there, and I hope that someone can get these videos, they ordered that all of my interactions with staff be recorded.
Oh, that was great.
Because the abuses that I experienced. I mean, I was beat up by them, choked by them, starved by them, I denied mail by them, denied visits by them, torn up my family pictures, my kids' pictures by them, property destroyed by them, called racist names and degraded by them. And they all call that corrections. It's not corrections, it's abuse. And they get away with it because they sent us African American black men into a community where there are no other African American black people. And the only time that these Caucasian men and women see black people is when they come to work inside the prison. And in their minds, they're coming to a zoo. In their minds, they're treating us like animals. Well, because that's what they think we are.
Since your advocacy, have you had any interaction with the correction system? Have they changed at all?
Well,
can you tell us what's happening now?
You know, I have not had the pleasure. I understand there's some mirrors of me at some prisons because the people are proud of some of the things I've been able to accomplish. To God be the glory for some of those things that I've been able to, for all the things I've been able to do. But no, I have not been able to go inside of a prison yet. It's been 17 years since I've been inside of a prison, and I hope that one day I can go in there and minister and mentor and bear witness to success, because success is a mindset. You have to want it, you have to think it, you have to believe it, and you have to live it. You have to decide to want to be successful. It's the choices that we make that makes us successful.
You know, you sound very much like, for those of you who don't know, ladies and gentlemen, we have a brand new chief of police in the city of Detroit. His name is James White. And many of you may know that our former chief of police now is running for governor, James Craig, against Governor Whitmer. He's running on the Republican ticket, which is great. I mean, because we have a two-party system, and, you know, there are pluses and minuses, of course, with both. But James White, our new chief of police, not only has a degree in mental health and in counseling, but also a zillion different certifications and degrees as a police officer. Yeah. He has a master's degree. He was also oh my God, he was also the first time in history that he was a deputy chief in Detroit before he became the head of the Civil Rights Department for the state of Michigan. I mean, think of it, a deputy police chief being the head of civil rights. So anyway, he left the Civil Rights Department and became our chief, and he's been recently confirmed as chief. But my point is that he's always talking about choices, about the choices that people make in our community, and the fact that we have to, it's not just the act. I take this phone and I smash it on the floor, so, you know, that's a crime. Right. This is expensive. Yes. It's a felony, actually, because it's worth more than $150. Yes. So if I do that, I've destroyed your property. I'll be arrested. But the question is, why? Why did I make that choice? What happened to me? What's in my background? Why am I doing this? And he's always talking to
I'll
black
tell you
people
why.
about choices.
Because, well, first of all, not only do we have,
But you just talked about it.
yeah, it is. It's about
So
choice.
I'm just saying,
Yeah.
you as an ex-offender are in kinship with our current chief of police. He's constantly telling people.
And you know what taught me that?
What?
What taught me that is when I just made that last point about me being recorded by these people at all of my interactions. That meant when they brought me my meals, lunch, breakfast, dinner, when the nurse brought my medications that I was unable to keep in the cell with me, those type of things. Anytime that would happen, they would have to have the recording.
Mm-hmm.
But what they did not record is that just before they put that recorder on, they banged on my cell door, kicked it, and said, "Wake up, you fucking nigger, we're here."
Really?
And then when I start banging, I want to see the sergeant, I want to see the supervisor, that's when they put the camera on me.
So that you look like a crazy man.
So I look like a crazy person. So I realized the choice that I had to make the next time they come in my door and start banging and say, "Wake up, little Farrakhan, we're here."
Mm-hmm.
That was the 2 to 10 shift, the 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. shift, the harassing shift, the white racist guys. "Wake up, little Farrakhan, we're here."
Mm-hmm.
I made the choice to ignore them. I made the choice to just sit in my bunk and let them have their fun.
Right.
And
because
I started
it didn't
writing.
make sense because it only made you look bad.
It only made me look bad.
And you could write it at 10:10. They came to me.
That's
and
right,
they
and
said,
that's
hello.
exactly what I
And you
did.
could keep that diary.
On
keep
toilet
that
paper. On toilet paper, because they took all of my writing material. They took everything from me, and one of the other persons was able to fish me a pencil. They took all my writing materials. They took everything. They even took my clothes at one point. They 4-pointed me at one point, tied me to the bed at one point after they beat me up and choked me and everything. Yeah.
How do you write on toilet paper? Just very lightly.
Very lightly, yeah. Very lightly. And they gave you little ink pens too that were like probably about this tall, about that big, and they're
4
real
inches?
skinny, about 4 inches pen, real skinny. I put a Band-Aid. I used to get a Band-Aid from the nurse. I used to get Band-Aids from the nurse. I put Band-Aids around my fingers. And that way I was able to hold the pen longer and write.
I see.
I cushioned my fingers.
Oh my gosh! So we're talking about crime right now in America. Of course, as we know, it's spiked across the country,
Yes.
particularly in major cities. And in terms of a national news update, as you probably saw yesterday, the state police now have tripled the number of officers, not in Michigan, but in Chicago, because of the number. I think there have been 1,000 shootings on their freeway. So now they're like every other car almost is a state trooper car. So because the mayor asked for help with their freeways, which 94 from Detroit runs straight into Chicago, as you know, right downtown.
Yeah,
So I mean, this outbreak of violence within the community. And what if you watch Fox News and CNN and MSNBC, you know it's black on black crime mostly. Most of it is not white on black crime. It's really black on black crime. So, how do you resolve this? The Board of Police Commissioners right now, we're getting ready to study that issue. But about how, why, what's happening. Of course, the chief has a number of theories, but he says there's so many outside factors that affect crime. But what's your take on this crime resurgence in America, to the extent that it is in Detroit, Chicago, every urban area where there are people?
Well, first of all, I like to give a shout out to our state police department, the Michigan State Police,
Right.
And they're doing a tremendous job. I think our highways are safe, despite even hearing recent shootings on the highway.
There only been a few, right? Nothing like Chicago.
Nothing like Chicago, but the way that our Michigan State Police respond to those type of calls is a model that should be followed in other states, I believe. And I think.
Well, you just told me though how you told me yesterday how they had to stop because what's happening on the Detroit freeways. Just let
there are donuts. I don't know if people saw this.
No, Chargers, the high-powered cars, which are really relatively inexpensive, and people like to race them.
They like to race them,
and they don't have any place to race them.
Not only race them, but they like to play with them, like do donuts, and play in the streets. And the news showed that on a large freeway here in Detroit, that they were actually blocking the freeway.
Tell us how you do that. I was shocked to hear this,
this
ladies and gentlemen. You won't believe this. If you're an ordinary driver like me, then you don't know anything about this.
So the group that's going to be doing the donuts, the entertainers, and the Chargers, and those fancy fast cars, they block the freeway. And
how do you block a freeway?
Well, they have their friends and they just stop all 3 lanes. They got all their friends are behind them. They just slow down, put their hazard lights on, like they're having problems with the car, and just stop.
Okay.
So that slows down traffic. So now they're stopped, and so now the guys that's going to perform come around on stage. Sorry about that. They come around on stage, the ones that's going to perform, and they do their donuts.
Wait a minute, and then you say they
block the shoulders so the state police can't get through. And then once they see the state police coming through with their lights on, and they move out the way so the state police come through, but they're taking their time doing it to give their friends time to take off. They let their friends know the boy's coming through. They take on off and get off the freeway. So what the state police need to do when they get these cars, come the opposite way and come back and come on the stage with them, and that's how you get to them.
Okay, so that's a good tip. I've never heard of this. I mean, this is amazing to me.
Yeah. It's dangerous as heck, and so I wish it would stop.
I do too.
We have, not only pedestrians and motorists out there that's trying to get where they're going. This is a dangerous thing. These are people that can die right there.
It's not just that. If you're having some sort of a crisis or whatever, and the whole freeway is blocked and you're down, as my sister calls it, the ditch.
Yeah.
Sharon says that suburbanites hit the ditch coming into the city and they hit the ditch going out, so they don't have to interact with the city. That's just my sister, Attorney Sharon Bernard. She says it all the time. But if you're in the ditch, you can't get out.
Right. And when you talked about the phone, for instance, that analogy about destroying the phone, the fact of the matter is the crime doesn't pay. But it certainly hell does cost a lot.
It sure does.
Okay? It does not pay, but it costs a lot. And so what people need to do is start making better choices. They need to find a job. Do you understand? Behind this pandemic, with everyone being home, everyone's being forced home. And being forced home, there's been other benefits of being at home, like the unemployment. Some people are getting the unemployment. Some people are getting other type of ways to earn money. So they're not they're not busy like they should be. We had to put these people back to work and put people back to being busy. Because the idle mind is the devil's workshop. And that's exactly what's going on.
True. That's absolutely true. But the 10 million jobs are open in America right now. And nobody's filling them.
And you know why? Because they don't qualify anymore. They don't qualify anymore because what we're not counting to the fact is the marijuana industry that's growing up so fast, that's booming in states like Michigan. Those jobs are not being counted towards our employment rate right now. And that's where the shift went. Imagine all the people that are working, number one, for the dispensaries. So all those jobs that were created, those jobs are not being counted in our numbers. Number two, because they're not being counted in our numbers, there are a lot of people now that are using recreational marijuana and things of that nature that no longer qualify for the jobs that are out there that are open. Employers won't hire them.
So let me understand. What you're saying is that if we eliminated the marijuana test for people, that there would be more people would be employed?
Yes.
Okay.
Especially, and not only eliminate it, I'm not saying eliminate it, but if we could just not, if we're going to legalize marijuana, THC in our state, then the employers need to follow suit with us. Now, I understand that Michigan is an at-will state.
Correct.
Okay.
Most states are now.
Okay. And most people with money or not do what? They make a will, right?
No.
Hold on. Let me just make this analogy for you, if you don't mind.
Okay.
This will, you make a will. If you're going to die, you make a will, right?
You're supposed to, for your estate.
For your estate. And you're able to do what? Change that will, aren't you?
Any time of day or night.
Any time of day. Then that's what we need to do when it comes to the will that the employers have. We need to take that out of their will. We need to change their will when it comes to THC. Because if you're saying to me that you're not going to hire, you're getting money from the state of Michigan, for instance, especially when it comes to nonprofits, you're getting money from a state.
But anybody.
For anybody. This should apply for anybody.
Yeah, not just nonprofits.
Not just for any employer in the state.
So you're saying General Motors, Chrysler,
Ford. Walmart had a case recently, but Walmart's case is a little different. Walmart had already.
What was the case?
The guy was already hired. He had been a long-time employee, a star employee, But they did a random drug test on him, and he came back with THC, and they fired him.
But he had cancer.
He had
I
cancer.
read that
He had
case.
cancer.
He had cancer, and he had some problems as a result of it.
Yeah.
And so the THC allowed him to sleep.
But there
and
was like
everything
$250,000 judgment towards the end of that. So he did get something like a $250,000 judgment against
Okay.
Walmart or something like that. But the bottom line is this: if it's a medical issue, where does the HIPAA law come in place?
Well, it doesn't when it comes to drug screening, because when you sign when you sign off on those forms, when you apply for a job, you are agreeing to the terms and conditions of the employer.
Okay.
The employer can have any kind of terms and conditions he wants. I mean, no misdemeanors, no whatever. You know what I mean?
Right.
There now, as you say, there is a drug screen. There's a criminal background check. There's all kinds of stuff going on, and it's all within the discretion of the employer.
Okay. Well, and it's discretionary. But there has to be some type of fairness to it too.
But you raise a different point, and I'm going to get to it in like 1 second. Ladies and gentlemen, you are watching Chop It Up with attorney Linda Bernard. We are here today on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, every social media platform, and we are on Wjzz Cool TV, the coolest station in the nation and the world. John Cromer is our guest, a returning citizen. Pardon me.
Thank you.
I'm not going to say sister. I said citizen. And he's an exciting person because he was known when he was away. I don't even like to use the word incarcerated when he was away as Little Farrakhan. So Little Farrakhan.
Oh no, but that's what the racist officers called me.
I know.
The prisoners called me Red.
Oh, okay.
Who
was also from Detroit.
He was also
right.
from Detroit.
Farrakhan
like Malcolm X was also called Detroit Red.
Okay,
prison, so.
but back to this issue in terms of employers and their ability to ask these questions. There is nothing that circumscribes that. The problem is, like you say, you're saying it's having a disproportionate effect on white people and black people.
And our employment rate.
And employment rates.
Yeah, it is. Because they're not counting it. Because they're saying that marijuana is recognized at state levels, but not recognized at the federal level.
That's getting ready to change, I think, very soon.
Our employment numbers are based on the federal numbers. That's where we get our employment rates, from the federal numbers.
Right.
So the federal
Department
numbers,
the
Department of Labor is not acknowledging this shift. This growth, this tremendous growth.
And you know what's so interesting about that you raised that, is that I can have a purse full of oxycodone and all kinds of other narcotic drugs. I mean, heavy duty stuff, heavy duty painkillers.
They make no mention of it.
Right, and I can take that every day.
Yes.
And every night.
Yes.
And I'm fine.
Yes.
But and I'm not a marijuana person, as you know. I've never smoked.
It's a
I don't
medicine.
smoke cigarettes. I don't smoke.
It's a medicine.
And I don't do the edibles. But the point is that why is that a problem? But morphine is not.
Right. Exactly.
It makes no sense.
It makes no sense to me.
I mean,
either,
it's like
And it makes sense to me in this regard. I think the line in the sand to me is made when you're talking medical versus recreational.
I would agree.
Okay. Now, if it's a recreational, if Tom wants to do recreational marijuana and risk losing his job, then that's Tom's prerogative. But if Tom went to his doctor and his doctor agreed with that regimen of whatever marijuana or edibles, whatever he was doing, and the doctor said it was fine,
THC.
and the doctor signed off, now it becomes medical.
Correct.
So leave Tom alone.
Right.
Because this is now a medical issue.
Right. It's a pre-existing condition in most instances, and it's like any other pre-existing condition that I have.
Yes.
If I can't walk or if I can't see very well, you have to give me a bigger monitor.
Yes.
I mean, you have to accommodate people's disabilities
within
the United States of America.
Especially when they tell you.
Under the Americans with Disabilities Act.
Exactly.
So if I need this screen is not big enough for me, I gotta have a great big one, then you have to give it to me.
Now let me tell you this.
They had to pay on that point. My sister had a really bad back problem. They paid $7,000. Michigan National Bank did, Bank of America now, for her chair, because in order to have the right curvature so that she could work, comfortably at her desk. Right. $7,000 for the chair.
So you understand that job seekers today know that when we fill out job applications, there's a question on there now on most job applications is ask if you have a disability. Just before
Yes, it does.
They ask you if you have a disability.
Like I can't see, I can't hear that.
Or whatever it is.
Right.
They don't tell you to tell you what it is because you don't have to tell you. You also you also say I don't want to tell you.
Right.
Because that's an option.
You don't have to say what it is.
Yeah. So you don't have to
say. They can ask you, do you need accommodation?
That's right. They ask you if you need accommodations. And
like
you
the
say,
special chair.
The special chair, or something on your feet, a cushion on the chair.
Or you gotta have a ramp to get in the building because there's the steps are there and you can't handle the steps.
And you can't sit near a window, the sunlight, whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever the
some people have severe migraines. They have to be in a room like this one.
A dark room. You know, they can't have the natural light come in and affects their eyes.
It affects their eyes in their head.
Whatever. Those are options on the job application. And when you disclose that to employers and they still hire you.
All the time. They can't discriminate against you.
They can't discriminate against you.
If you have more than 100 employees and you're subject to the Americans with Disabilities Act.
That's right.
But you're saying they're discriminated against people who have medically prescribed marijuana.
Cards. Authorized, current valid medical marijuana cards. Employers are still discriminating because they have the will and the option and discretion to do that.
So you want to see that change?
I want to see that change. I want to see that when you give that employer your medical marijuana card, they get the hell off your case. Unless you are bringing it to work and doing it in the presence of their job, and then you come to work smelling like it, or you're on your break doing it coming like that, then you're fired. But if you're saying that you do this at home in the privacy of your own home and you take care of yourself at night, so you can sleep, or so you can do whatever it is, you can eat, whatever the case that your pain can go away, whatever the case is that your doctors and you have determined you need this medication for. And you mentioned Oxycontin and Oxycodone. There are some instances where Oxycodone and Oxycontin in some reports keep people awake at night.
Mm-hmm. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it keeps them awake at night. After they've taken it so long.
I've known people with real pain though who had to use it.
It
at least takes the edge off.
It takes not only it takes it away.
It takes the pain away.
It takes the pain away. That's one drug that does not play when it comes to pain. It takes it away. The problem is that when people are not in pain and they use the drug, then they're going to feel like they're high. They're going to have that
euphoria.
Euphoria going on, euphoric feeling going on, like they're high. Mm-hmm. When you're in pain and you take it, you're not going to have that.
But as the employer,
the pain is just going to go.
But as the employer, you don't know that because I just take my pills with my coffee.
Exactly.
Right. And,
exactly.
And it's perfectly legal. And I can be high as a kite.
High as a kite. You could take it. You could call it a vitamin. Mm-hmm. And it could be fentanyl.
Yeah, because
they don't know that.
It doesn't pick up. It's not picked up in the drug screen.
But when they pick it up, when they do pick up the oxycodone, Oxycontin in your drug screen, they're not concerned about that. They're more concerned about the marijuana. And all of them are legal because the doctor gave all of them to you.
So your goal would be, in order to achieve full employment, number one, that employers drop that screen for if you have a medical card, then you pass the drug screen. And that's not what's
you can
happening
still do the drug screen.
Yeah.
You can still do the drug screen.
See, there's heroin and all that kind of stuff.
Because you want to track the other stuff.
You don't want cocaine and heroin.
You don't want cocaine and heroin and all those other stuff. But if it's the state that they legalize marijuana for medical purposes, and this potential candidate has a valid marijuana card, then they pass that screen.
Okay.
Now you do want to drug test them for the other stuff, like we just indicated, but not for the marijuana. And you want to make sure, that you tell the employee, we understand you take this marijuana, but you can't do it at work. You can't do it, and make them sign off on that.
Right. And you can get a doctor's, like if I'm pregnant or something and I can't stand up, you just get the doctor's excuse tells the employer what any limitations that I may have as an employee in terms of my job. It's the doctor. Right. It's a medical issue. You're saying it's not a social issue or a criminal issue.
No.
It's not a criminal issue.
No,
it's a medical issue, and that's where
it's not even an employment issue.
Right. That's my point.
It doesn't become an employment issue at that point. It should not be.
It should not be.
Especially nowadays that people are working from home.
Oh, absolutely.
Do you understand the access that people have to these things that the employers don't like at home?
Correct.
The people are getting drunk as hell doing their customer service jobs from home.
Right. I mean, and you're absolutely right. Alcoholism and other things are very, very serious issues.
And prevalent, yeah.
And that's a real concern for us. And it creates other medical problems. Yeah. Liver issues, heart issues, all kinds of issues.
But it goes back to the issue that we were talking about. It creates criminal issues as well.
Oh, thank you.
The drunken driving.
Right.
The assaults, the domestic 911 calls. the suicide and homicide rates because of the alcoholism. It all leads back to crime and the choices that people make.
Well, we just did a study with the Detroit Police Department on the reasons for homicides. And I believe it was almost 60% of the cases there was an argument.
Yeah.
Just an argument. I mean, things just escalate. People just and then they start to move for weapons.
Yes.
The second major reason for homicides, at least in Detroit, are narcotics things.
Yes.
Something to do with narcotics.
Yes, yes.
And then the third, the others aren't really material, and that was a much smaller percentage, like 19%, were domestic issues, domestic violence issues. But the number one reason
it's an argument.
Is argument,
right.
And it goes back to what we started this conversation about, choices.
Yeah.
You're really mad at me, you know, or another guy, not a girl. I mean, we don't even have to be boy girl. You know, it can just be two men, and the thing just escalates. Have you seen this or experienced this? I mean, personally, or observed it? I mean, what is really happening? Because I'm not a violent person. Putting my hands on you is not something I ever even think. I fight with words.
And I'm the same way.
If I was super mad, maybe I'm not destructive. But if I was destructive, I might tear down that wine thing. But I'm not gonna put my hands on a human being.
Right.
What is it that triggers in people?
People lack anger. They lack anger management skills. Our prisons and jails are full of people who lack anger management skills.
One
and
choice.
Conflict resolution. They lack the conflict resolution skills and the anger management skills. That's what they're regretting it as they're in the back of the police car, as they're trying to run out of the state and hide down south somewhere in another relative's house, as they're sitting in the bullpen in the jail cell getting their fingers printed or whatever and being booked. They're regretting it. It's too late at that point. It's too late to regret it at that point.
Right. You can't rewind.
You
cannot rewind life.
You can't rewind life. And the thing that really confuses me is that most of the time you have these idiots that had nothing to do with this argument who was called to defend one of the people that's arguing. Mm-hmm. And they come right in just wanting to kill the person or shoot the person or fight the person. Because, like, for instance, your sister called you, Linda. He over here did this, he did that. You put your juice shoes on and grab your jar of Vaseline to put on your face and you ready to fight. It's none of your business.
Let me give you a real life case in the city of Detroit that just happened within the last 30 days because as a commissioner I get all the crime reports. Girl goes out with guy. They go to a hotel. She gets mad at him. She calls. She doesn't want to do it. Whatever. I don't know what happened between the two of them. She calls her brother.
Oh yeah, there it is. That's what I'm talking about.
Her brother comes to the hotel in his truck. She calls both of her brothers. One brother gets there first. She calls the one brother with his truck. Her boyfriend then pulls the gun. Now she's safe. Shoots the brother. The brother is still conscious. He uses the truck to run the guy into a fence next to the motel. I mean, the guy that shot him. He's got his foot on the gas. The other brother gets there. There's a shootout between the other brother and him. Three people go to the hospital in critical condition from gunshot wounds. The girl walks away.
Yeah, I know.
She called her brother. She, as you said, conflict resolution. Had she just maybe, talk a little differently or
left. Just get left the scene.
Right. Don't call your brother. Call the police if you're
sacrificing your brother.
Both brothers.
Both brothers. You just sacrificed both brothers.
Because both of them came out the house.
That's right.
For their sister.
And they both may die because of your idiocy.
Right. And the guy that you went there with voluntarily, he's in critical condition now. Everyone is charged in this case. I mean, so the guy who pinned the guy and the guy who shot. I mean, everybody's charged because the other brother had a gun. Everybody's got guns.
And she should be charged for aggravating it.
No, that's not. I mean, she was probably in fear and or scared or something. I don't know what the nature.
Call the police. Don't call your family members.
No, because now, I mean, can you imagine the guilt? You're one of 17 children?
Yeah,
14.
my mother had 14 children.
14 natural births.
Yeah.
And you know how you feel if
right.
your brothers were in critical condition or died
Yeah.
as a result of you calling on them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is real. I mean,
Yeah,
these
it is.
arguments, these disputes. I'm an expert, as you know, in mediation and in dispute resolution. I started the largest mediation center in the state of Michigan. I'm a mediator and an arbitrator. I mediated 3 different cases this week myself to settlement. I usually won't let people leave the room until we can get a deal.
Right.
Because I want it resolved.
Let's
We're
get it
not
over
gonna,
with.
We're not going to
Life
revisit.
goes on.
Yeah, we're not going to revisit this. So I'm like working with both sides, caucusing with both sides,
Yes.
moving it forward. So I understand what you're saying,
Yes.
and maybe that has tempered my view on life, because I mean, getting into a fight or something like that, John, in my whole life, I've only been in one fight, and that was actually when I was about 10 or 11. A young white girl on our street called my brother a nigger. I'll never forget it as long as I live. And I told her to take it back, and she wouldn't take it back. She was like 13 or 14, much older than me, 4 or 5 years. And I beat her butt just because of that. That's the only fight I was, again, taking up like you do, like both of us do, with advocating for someone. She didn't call me a nigga. She called him a nigga. So that was that for me. You got to take it back. You can't call him a nigga. You know, and she wouldn't take it back. Her family came out. She had about 10 kids and everything. But they didn't bother me. But it was just wrong. You know what I mean?
It was wrong, yeah.
So, no, I understand what you're saying, but I don't. I just don't understand how we move forward, like with all of this, anger. I tell everyone that there's like a free floating rage in the community right now, and it's just there. I mean, from people cutting you off in traffic to, it's just everybody's mad. Tell me why.
The marijuana they're smoking.
Okay. Come on. Oh, no, wait a minute. You're watching Chop It Up with attorney Lyndon Bernard, and it's not because of the marijuana that anyone in this room was smoking. I can assure you that.
They buy it from the streets, they're going to make you mad.
I want you to always continue to tune in live to Chop It Up with attorney Lyndon Bernard on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and other social media platforms. We're on Wjzz Cool TV, the coolest station in the nation and the world. And my guest, of course, is Mr. John Cromer. But it's not because of marijuana.
No, it is not.
No.
It's because of, again, lack of anger management skills, conflict resolution.
But see, you're using big
They don't
words.
know when to leave. They don't know when to leave. And then you're supposed to
Or
leave.
when to just stand down.
Or just to stand down. It's nothing.
Everything is...
Live for another day. It's nothing. It's no
But-
battle,
but-
no
but-
argument that you're going to lose that's going to cost you your
but
life.
see, you're saying that now as a mature adult. When you were 16, 17, 18,
Yes.
what happened then? Did
Well-
you fight, duke it out?
well,
then
you know-
we fought,
you know-
unless you had a gun,
No, I didn't have my first fight till I got to prison.
Okay.
I didn't. You know, if you count siblings with 13 brothers and sisters, and obviously we had our little battles around the house. But with our parents being strict as they were, it was nothing destructive. We didn't break down walls together fighting and stuff like that. You find in some houses. We didn't break down doors and fighting each other.
Your mother and father would have killed you.
Oh my God!
You'd have
they
been a
didn't
dead person.
Yeah, we couldn't fight each other. We couldn't do that.
No, it's interesting that you say that, and I've told my nephews that. I have 3 nephews, and there's squabbles and stuff, and I tell them all the time. I said, you can never touch your brother other than in a loving manner.
That's
If
right.
you touch your brother,
That's right.
it has to be in a loving
That's
manner.
right.
You never strike him. You never hit.
Yes.
And it has, and now they repeat it back to me.
Yes.
They're in
yes.
college now.
That's
I can
good.
only touch my brother in
Right.
a loving manner.
That's right.
Can't touch your brother other than in a loving
But I
manner.
really want to knock his head off.
because my father taught me that.
Right.
I got to tell you the story because you have sisters as well. My father's sister, my aunt came to my house one day and told Daddy, it was a lot of snow, and we had a lot of snow in Detroit and stuff. And she told Daddy that her neighbor had pushed her down, her next door neighbor. What happened is that my aunt was out there shoveling the snow off of her driveway and kept throwing it on his sidewalk and on his stuff. That's what she was doing. And so he would throw it back on her driveway because he wasn't going to clean up from his sidewalk where she had made a big pile at his sidewalk. Anyway, so they have words out there. So Aunt Peggy's out there doing her thing. So apparently at some point, she said or did something towards him, and then he pushed her down and she sat down on a snowbank, like boom, like that. And so that was the end of it. So she went in the house and told my uncle, her husband, what happened. And he told her she shouldn't have been out there fat mouthing in the first place. This is how he talks. Because he knows her and how she goes on and on and on.
Right.
She comes over, she tells Daddy. Daddy listens, John, and Daddy says, what's the guy's name? And she told her next door neighbor. So Daddy, those days we had white pages, yellow pages, so you could call. So
Right.
Daddy called him,
Right.
and he said, like Mr. Smith. He said yes. He said, my name is Bernard, John Bernard. I'm Peggy Wright's brother, and I understand you had a problem with her today. So Daddy listens to the guy. Then Daddy gets the other guy's story. What Aunt Peggy had done, all the stuff Aunt Peggy had been putting all the snow on his stuff and all this kind of stuff. And he was out there doing his best trying to get it up. And so Daddy listened to his whole story. And then Daddy said to him, I understand your position, and I understand that my sister can be strong-willed. He said, but no one can touch my sister other than in a loving manner. And I would appreciate it if you would apologize to her, because you touched her in a way that was not appropriate and was not in a loving manner. So Daddy put the man on the phone with Aunt Peggy, and Aunt Peggy got her apology, and then she was, oh, my brother, my big brother, my big brother. But that's how I learned that.
Okay.
You don't touch
Right.
other than in a loving manner. And if you can't do that, then you don't touch at all.
Keep your hands
So
to
Daddy,
yourself.
so this was her hero, because her husband thought that she was totally wrong, which she was, but that's a whole separate issue. That had nothing to do with it, whether she was right or wrong for Daddy.
Right.
Daddy's point was that you don't touch her other than in a loving manner.
Right.
And I've always remembered that. So that's why I said that to you.
Well, and that's exactly, tolerance is what people need too. That's what Miss
Oh, that's
Rosa
true.
Parks told me.
Okay,
She
tell
actually
me what.
she actually sent me an award in 2002 before her death. She sent me an award while I was in prison, and it's called the Certificate of Wall of Tolerance.
What does that mean?
That you tolerate some things you have to tolerate.
Yeah, you just
You
let
just
it go.
let it go.
Yeah, right.
You know, tolerate that, because that's part of your growth.
But see, your emotional makeup, some people are,
It's like cutting the onion, she says.
What do you mean?
Tolerating it.
Okay, right. You do tolerate the tears. Right. You do tolerate it. That's what she said.
That's what she said, Miss Rosa
I'll-
Parks. And she sent it straight from John Kiner's office and signed it.
Did
I have
she?
it in a frame at my home, yes.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I framed it.
So you took it out of that locker that you have.
That one I did take out. I never put that. I took that out when I first came home to brag about it with my family
Of
and
course.
stuff.
Of course.
And my photos and things like that. So that was in my photo album.
Okay.
The certificate. So my photo album from prison, yes, I did take that out of the Foot Locker. The Foot Locker contains like my legal stuff, all of my briefs, the appeal stuff, my journal. I kept a journal in prison, and like you say, at 3 o'clock they called me, nigga, that type of stuff. It's in my Foot Locker. One of these days I plan to write a letter, but a book. But one things that has stopped me is I don't feel like I'm worthy enough to write the book yet, because I don't think I've done enough yet to tell a story yet. I don't think people are going to be interested in what I have to say.
But you've done quite a few things. You've got the Detroit City Council to
ban
vote
the
a
box.
resolution to ban the box on
Yes.
our job applications for city positions
And city contractors.
and city contractors.
Yes.
They can no longer ask you if you have a criminal record. Is that the question?
That's right. Before the interview process.
Right, before the interview process,
That's
right.
right. Uh-huh.
So that was banning the box. You've certainly been an advocate.
For job development,
Right.
mentoring, and help. It takes a
And,
lot of
and,
people.
and also
work.
for children.
Well, thank God for that, because I love children. I think they're the
We
best.
have a son
I have a 6-year-old
and a daughter.
and a oh Lord, come on.
and
now.
a grandchild.
Yes, you're gonna tell my story now, because my kids are 28 years apart.
Yeah.
And I have two children that are 28 years apart. So it's quite the But I just want to give a shout out to my daughter Jocelyn. She is such an amazing daughter. She is always there for her little brother. She's always there for her dad. She's an amazing young woman. And her mother, even in my absence, and I did all those years in prison, her mother Kimberly did a great job raising her and teaching her how to be a woman. And I'm just so proud of both of them.
Oh, that was good. So you did get a chance to see them while you were away?
No, I did not. My daughter wrote me 4 times in 13 years.
Okay.
She was not encouraged that.
Did you write her?
Oh yeah, I wrote her a lot.
Because you were a writer.
Oh yeah, I wrote
Pen
my
and
daughter a
paper,
lot.
pen and paper.
and pencil and paper and ink pen and paper. Yeah.
So
whatever I had.
so now can people just as an aside, can you get unlimited pencils and paper now in jail because
Well, that's what
how have they
I have a
changed?
nonprofit. I didn't tell you that. I started a nonprofit called TMI Detroit, and that's one of the issues that we're going to be looking into: access to the courts, fair treatment while you're incarcerated. We have a campaign. It's called TMI Detroit. Is our name of
what
our.
does TMI stand for?
Well, it stands for a lot of stuff for us, a lot of stuff, but all one thing, if you will. TMI, it stands for too much incarceration.
Okay, I agree with that.
So that's what we're talking
Jesse
about.
Jackson calls Jackson Prison the All Black Male Academy, and
Okay.
he says all we do is feed into it.
That's all.
He calls it the All Black Male
and
Academy.
they graduate to the cemetery. But the thing is that,
oh my gosh.
yeah, the thing is that
No.
oh man,
It's a difficult subject. I know.
it is for me. And
I
so
understand.
because I just don't understand. Sometimes I did 13 years. I mean, there are people that have done more heinous crimes than what I stole a pair of gym shoes and a set of bed sheets, but because of the way that I speak, those officers were able to get away with writing bogus and trumped up tickets and keep me down longer. But I just want to thank you for allowing me to come and talk. I'll come back, I promise you.
I can't wait. You'll definitely be back on this show with me, Mr. John Cromer.
Thank
I
you.
want to thank you for joining us today on Chop It Up with attorney Linda Bernard. Your story has been enlightening to all of us. You're watching Wjzz Cool TV, the coolest station in the nation and the world. And I've got the coolest guy sitting here right across from me. Thank you so much, Mr. Cromer, for joining me today.
Thank you.
And our audience.
Thank you. Have a good week.
You too. All set. You did great. But you know that.
Thank you.
You always do.
I was clear.